Welcome to The Gift of Life with Gregg. I'm your host, Gregg Francis, and I'm joined today by my co-hosts, Barry Kaplan and Leora Lieberman. We save lives, plain and simple. Have you known someone stricken with leukemia? Has a family member of yours suffered from lymphoma? Then turn up your dial. This show is for you. We are the gift providing a second life. We are the gift of life. Since 1999, we've saved over 2,700 lives. For many patients with blood cancer, bone marrow donation is often their last hope, and that's where we come in. We try hard at what we do, but we will never be satisfied until we can say, one day, we found a match anytime, anywhere, for anyone. That's the gift of life way. So now we have the scissors, we've opened the box, and now it's time to unwrap the gift of life. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our show. Last week's show discussed whether college coaches and administrators, should be in the know if their student athletes are taking grade-inflated, bogus classes. In certain circumstances, it seemed like the coaches were burying their heads in the sand for the almighty buck. However, pursuant to last week's discussion, with all the incentive clauses in coaches' contracts to win, does it innately incentivize these in a position of power to look the other way? You know what? I think it does, and I think they're incentivizing people on the wrong metrics. For those also of you who tuned in last week, you know that September is Blood Cancer Awareness Month. And I know it's November. However, only creating awareness for 1 month will not solve the blood cancer epidemic. So we will continue to spread the word each week, and we'll ask our listeners to do the same. Pacific Islanders are having a really, really tough time. In fact, they were in the news this week. Hispanic people are underrepresented. Asian people are underrepresented. Our African-American friends are underrepresented. And I met with one of our African-American friends today, and she told me that, she's trying to get the word out, and it hasn't been the most successful. So let's see if our listening audience could certainly help her out. I hope society continues to be proactive and joins the worldwide registry. If you want to get involved, please call Bridget, and she's waiting for you at 1-800-9-MARROW. For those that like things quantitatively, that's 1-800-962-7769. The Jets.
Dun, dun, dun.
The Jets just endure the season, just end the season. They lost a game on Sunday. And I guess if they won on Sunday, that would be news. But anyhow, we're off to a 1-8 start. And Barry wanted to opine on this. The Jets or the Chiefs gave us some comic relief Sunday as a Kansas City Chief got what's called a touchdown. Actually, the ball fell on his tummy while he was lying on his tush. So if anything comical could happen to the Jets, it really enhanced my viewing pleasure.
Greg, the guy was already on the ground, and he still managed to get a touchdown. I'm sorry, Jets fans out there, but you guys are awful.
We're awful, and I think that it epitomizes the season because that was actually a good play. He deflected the quarterback.
Yeah, it was a good play.
It was a good play, and then this guy fell down. He's laying on his tush. The ball falls into his tummy. And
the rest is history.
The rest is history, and
I was laughing hard. You were crying hard.
You want to know something? It was comical. At this point, I think if things keep going in this pattern, this may be a Jet therapy show.
I'd like to add just one thing. Being a Miami Dolphins fan, I would love to see the Jets finish 1-15. I think they deserve to have such a record.
And as a Jet fan, I would love them to finish 1-15 because maybe then we would get Marcus Mariota, the coveted quarterback from Oregon. So my co-host, Barry Kaplan, is back and better than ever. And Big Nate, who jumped out of an airplane, we got such great response subsequent to our show that this man has a golden voice. We had to bring him back, and I think he's going to be a staple on the show. Nate, welcome back.
Oh, thank you. Glad to be here.
And Barry, it's great to have you back.
Thanks.
For those who have been our supporters this season, welcome back, and we thank you for all that you've done to spread awareness and transpire action for our show and for our cause. Because of you, we are ranked the #1 radio show on our flagship station, 1470 WWNN, as well as, and we say this jokingly, but we're the #1 bone marrow radio show worldwide. And yes, there are quite a few. There are more than one. So we're not the only player. We're not the only game in town. As previously mentioned, and I really want to give a sincere thank you to our listening audience, our show is going to be syndicated in 6 major cities. So with all seriousness, that becomes more awareness. It brings more people swabbing. It brings in more contributions. And the culmination of all that will help equal more lives being saved. And that's why we do what we do.
Exactly.
So that's very, very exciting. Gift of Life, I'm proud to say, is embarking on 3,000 lives saved since its inauguration. So that's very, very exciting to hear. It is. It's something. And if my friends at 800 Yamato Road are listening, job well done by everybody. It's always a collective effort. And from Lynn that answers the phone to every other department, we're all integral in saving people's lives, so that's something to be proud of. For those people who are tuning in for the first time, we're so glad that you could join us for Gift of Life with Gregg. I'm Gregg Francis. Welcome to our show. We encourage our listeners to call in at any time at 1-888-565-1470, or if you're shy and you don't want to be on the radio, you could email us at Gift of Life with Gregg, and Gregg is spelled Gregg because my parents didn't want to name me Gregory. So it's Gift of Life with Gregg at giftoflife.org. So it's long, but remember that Gregg is with 2 G's. So we broadcast live from Boca Raton every Tuesday evening from 4 to 5 p.m. right here on WWNN 1470. So let's tell you why we're here. We're here to spread awareness about the Gift of Life Bone Marrow Foundation, a life-saving nonprofit that gives patients like our little 6-year-old friend Sammy a second chance at life. We want to remind everyone of how special life is, and later on you're going to see how that intertwines with the theme of our show, and how every day of health and happiness is a true gift of life. So before I go any further, and which is a staple of our show, I have to thank my own gifts of life, people who make me smile every day and remind me of how lucky I am. To undoubtedly my biggest fan, my mom, Katie. I believe that she's in Boca Raton this week. So thank you, Mom. I love you. To my biggest Maryland fan, and we discovered a new word, my biggest Delmarva fan, which is an amalgamation of Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia. Hello and thank you, Grandma Margie. And to my 2 boys who are my gifts of life, Nicholas and Patrick, who are 11 and 7 years old. Patrick got to see our Gift of Life office today for the first time, and it was a lot of fun. Boys, I love you. Today's show, we're going to work about, we always heard the adage, hard work. Maybe hard work isn't always such a good thing, and we're going to go into that a little bit later. But right now, I'm going to turn it over to my dear friend BK, and he's going to tell us about some Gift of Life events.
That's right, Gregg. We got some really interesting stuff going on. Now, I get on the soapbox every week, and I tell you about the events going on at Gift of Life, but I think this is going to really interest our listening audience. We got our first annual Gift of Life Bone Marrow Foundation Walk for Life, Sunday, November 9th, at Rock Creek Park in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, that's exciting.
And it's really exciting. Registration starts at 7 a.m., and we start walking at 8. Correct, Gregg?
Yeah, 7.
I'm not trying to say, our cause is better than other people's cause, but what I will say is that this is no ordinary 5K walk, and I'll tell you guys why. At the Gift of Life first annual Walk for Life, you will be able to see a donor and a recipient, 2 complete strangers, who saved each other's lives, really, meet for the first time. And Greg, I mean, you've seen countless examples of this. Why don't you tell our audience what it's like?
You want to know something? You described it. I couldn't have described it better when you said that they both saved each other's life. Obviously, the recipient was critically ill and they couldn't find a match within their family. So this heroic donor steps up and gives marrow to save this person's life, not knowing if they're ever going to meet, because they both collectively have to want to meet. And
Yes.
in this case, they do, and they will on Sunday. However, I don't know if there's anything that can make you feel so special or so good as actually saving a person's life and taking part in the joy that you're going to give that critically ill patient and their family a second chance to really enjoy, the fruits of living a long and hopefully healthy life.
And that's exactly why the Gift of Life is around today. One of my favorite expressions that I've heard a donor, say at one of these galas is, the recipient actually saved my life because they gave me purpose on this earth. And that was extremely touching. Folks out there, November 9th, Sunday, November 9th, at the Rock Creek Park in Washington, D.C. Registration begins at 7. You can register online at www.giftoflife.org. Or you can give us a call at 1-800-9-MARROW. We can take your information down there. Either way, we'd love to see you out there. I know we got a lot of listeners at, Delmarva?
In the Delmarva region.
We got a lot of listeners in the Delmarva region. So come out Sunday, November 9th. Walk starts at 8. Registration's at 7. And you're going to get to see a donor and recipient, two complete strangers who saved each other's lives, meet for the very first time.
And I want to piggyback, Barry, off of something that you just said. The recipient is critically ill, and they get the gift of life. The donor who saved them, and it's all based in anonymity in the beginning, it recalibrated their lives. And we actually have two people on our staffs who I love very, very much. They're great ambassadors, great employees. We have Al Birkin and we have Nicholas Hudson. Nicholas trained to be an attorney and actually went to law school. Alec went for a management degree in Syracuse, and the donation process moved them so much that they altered their original career path.
Well, these two individuals actually chose to donate marrow,
Correct.
anonymously. And like you're saying, they changed their minds about their career paths, and thankfully now they're here with us.
Yeah, they're gainfully employed at Gift of Life, but that's how much of a life-changing circumstance it could also be for the donor, not only the recipient.
And, we've had a lot of people, recipients, donors on the show, and you hear it. We had Jay on the show, our CEO. It's quite remarkable because, getting a donor and recipient next to each other, it's almost, it's people smile. People are happy. It's like meeting a long-lost relative. It's really such a special moment. So, again, listeners out there in the Delmarva, it's Sunday, November 9th. This is a once-in-a-lifetime experience, Gift of Life's Walk for Life at Rock Creek Park in Washington, D.C. You can register online at www.giftoflife.org, or you can call us up at 1-800-9-MARROW. Either way, we'll get you in and see you there on Sunday morning.
Sunday morning, bright and early.
And we'll get you out of there so you can get your football in. So, Greg, before we get to break, what are we talking about today?
But before we talk, I think that we have one more walk that I want to promote to our Florida listening audience, which, as you know, that we broadcast every week in Boca Raton.
This one is around the corner, Greg.
This one is around the corner. The fifth annual Walk for Life in Boca Raton will be taking place on January 18th, 2015 at the beautiful Florida Atlantic University campus in Boca. So please, if you're local to South Florida, please come on down, support us. And again, you're going to be meeting a donor and recipient as well. Generally, the weather is cold. We always pick the coldest day of the year, but with all the love, you don't feel it there. It's phenomenal. It's a family event. We have family-centric games, face painters. We have food. We have dancing. But most of all, you're going to see up and live a donor and recipient meet for the first time, and hence they're partners for life.
Exactly.
So to Barry asked a very good question, and Nate, you could please chime in on this. I often heard that Americans live in the hardest working nation. Normally, hard work is a good thing, but I posit this question: is it? I want to recite, after our break, the government mandated vacation days of 20 industrialized nations, and I believe that you're going to be surprised at what you hear. So before we take a break, let me just say a quick hello to Nate. What's been going on in your world?
Oh, not much.
You know, I want to remind our audience before we get into this why Nate's here. We made a promise to our audience on the first show that if you go out and you carpe diem, seize the day, live the gift of life, so to speak, do something that you've always wanted to do or something that you never thought you would have done, we want to have you on the show. We want to invite you on and give you an audience. And Nate here, in this crazy story, Nate, you ended up you have a fear of flights, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I do not like to fly.
And so you ended up skydiving. You ended up jumping out of a plane.
That is very true. Yes.
So, we got your email.
I have been known to do some uncanny things.
We got this guy's email, Gregg.
No, what happened, a lot of people after the show sympathized with you, Nate, because they said that they were phobic of flying. And you indicated on the last show that you really don't enjoy flying. The last thing that they would do would be jump out of an airplane.
I will tell you this, that when I got back home last week,
Yes.
and I didn't mention to anyone that I was coming on the radio, nor did I mention anything about what I was going to be discussing. I did get a bunch of slack because people did not believe that it actually happened, knowing the type of person that I am.
Well, being that you're phobic of flying, I would say, maybe taking a flight from, Fort Lauderdale to Atlanta, maybe something, baby steps. But I think you went the full Monty by jumping out of an airplane.
Go big or go home. That's my philosophy. YOLO.
And Big Nate has a golden voice. That's why we invited him back. So what we're going to discuss is hard work the best thing, or is it, too taxing? So let us take a quick break, and we'll be back and have this discussion and how it intertwines with the gift of life. We'll be back in a few.
ThrowItBetter.com. Do you need help with your bowling game? Are you taking the right 5-step approach? If you want to become a competitive bowler, even a recreational bowler that's considering joining a league, or a league bowler that is considering joining a tournament, you need to see Vince. He's going to show you how to throw it better. He'll get you the right equipment. He'll show you the right approach. And as a certified coach, he'll put you in the best position to succeed. If you're interested, please contact Vince at throwitbetter@gmail.com and tell him that Gregg sent you. Again, that's throwitbetter@gmail.com, or call Vince at 954-541-5414.
If you own a business and have the need for commercial insurance, I suggest you call Chris Moore of Brown & Brown Insurance in Fort Lauderdale. Chris has been in the commercial insurance business for over 30 years and can handle any company's need for property, general liability, workers' compensation, and automobile, just to name a few. Brown & Brown, being countrywide and the 5th largest agency in the country, gives Chris the tools he needs to meet all your insurance needs. So call Chris at 954-331-1420. Again, that's 954-331-1420. We want to extend a special thanks to our friends at the Boca West Foundation for all the wonderful work they do for Gift of Life and for all the meaningful service they give to the Boca Raton community. For over 3 years, the Boca West Foundation has generously supported local charities in the Boca Raton area. The Boca West Foundation. It's all about the kids. Are you in the market for a health plan? If so, please visit my good friend Gary at Health Plans Unlimited. No plan is too big or too small. Gary will customize a plan that's affordable and comprehensive, just for you. If you're interested, please visit Gary Goldman, the best in the biz, at www.healthplansunlimited.com. Again, that's www.healthplansunlimited.com. Or you can call Gary Goldman directly on his personal line at 954-303-6676. Again, that's 954-303-6676. And tell him that Gregg sent you directly from the Gift of Life. Health Plans Unlimited. We have the health plan for you. Welcome back to the Gift of Life with Gregg, the show that talks about giving and receiving. I'm your co-host, Leora Lieberman, and I'm here with my host, Gregg Francis, and co-host, Barry Kaplan. If you'd like to call into our show, we'd love to hear from you. Please call 888-565-1470. Again, that's 888-565-1470. And now, back to our show.
And we're back with the Gift of Life with Gregg. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's Barry Kaplan here, Angry Barry. I'm going to get a little angry later in the show, aren't I, Gregg?
I have a feeling that you will today.
You don't seem very angry, Barry.
Not right now, but maybe in a little bit. The word of the day, ladies and gentlemen, recalibration. And the definition of recalibration, for those of you who don't know, to determine, check, or rectify the graduation of.
Barry, you always teach me a new SAT word. So for those listening and those that are going to take GMATs or SATs, Barry's doing his public service.
Recalibration, ladies and gentlemen. So Gregg, you chose today's word of the day. I believe it has something to do with what we're talking about. Why don't you jump into it?
Okay. As I mentioned before the break, I often hear that an American's life is the hardest working nation. Normally, hard work is a good thing, but is it? And I want to recite the following list of government-mandated paid time off of the below countries. So please listen carefully. This is paid time off in industrialized nations. Australia, 20 days off. Austria, 22 days off. Belgium, 20 days off. Canada, 10 days off. Denmark, 25 days off. Finland, 25 days off. France, 30 days off. Germany, 24 days off. Greece, Ireland, and Italy have 20 days off apiece. Japan, 10 days off. Netherlands and New Zealand, 20 days off. Norway, 25 days off. Portugal, 22 days off. Spain as well, 22 days off. Sweden, 25 days off. The United Kingdom, 20 days off. These are all countries where their government mandates that they have working days off. And last but not least, the United States, 0 days off that their government mandates. So of the 20 countries that I just listed, 18 of them have higher longevity rates than United States citizens. And the 2 that were lower were below by just 1 month. So we have 168 hours in a week, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And the average U.S. citizen, according to a Gallup poll, which is recent, on September 3rd, 2014, says that the average American works roughly 47 hours per week and add another 5 hours for weekly commute. So, and that was according to project.wnyc.org. And when you add those two together, it's 52 hours per week. And the definition of a workaholic is one that works on average 50 hours per week. And I just did I did some further research to determine and for our discussion if there's a causal relationship. The obesity rate tripled from 1980 to 2008. 1 in 10 adults report depression, according to cdc.gov. Now, the question that I'm going to posit, do you, our listening audience, think that there is a causal relationship between being the most overworked country and with the relatively low longevity rate in an industrialized country?
I just want to clarify right now, Gregg. You're saying that there's a causal relationship between the fact that there's no government mandated paid time off, and there's a causal relationship between that and mental, physical, and lifestyle health?
I would say that there is probably a causal relationship. Out of the industrialized nations in the world, we're the only ones that pay time off is strictly arbitrary. Not even holidays do you have to get time off. But yet, out of these 20 countries that we spoke about, they're all industrialized, but we have the second lowest longevity rate. I think that there's something to that, but I also believe, Barry and Nate, that we have a call.
We got a caller on the line. Let's see what he thinks, or she thinks for that matter. Jamie, you're on the air. Jamie, welcome to Gift of Life with Gregg.
Hi, Barry. This is Jamie.
Jamie, how's it going? You've been listening to our conversation?
I have.
What do you think about all these numbers that Gregg threw out, and basically this argument that there's a relationship between not getting any break, break vacation for work, and being unhealthy?
It's definitely something that there's something to it. I work at a firm, and I know that most people here, when you say 52 hours a week, I think that'd be the best week that we have the entire year.
Oh, man.
In terms of how little, so we're all working at least 70 or more on any given week, and I think that there's definitely something to it. Particularly some of the older guys that I work with. When I'm in my 20s, and a lot of my coworkers are on my level, but the guys who are in their 40s and 50s who still work that much, you're not the same physically that you were when you were in your 20s. You certainly don't have the same ability, I think, to go without sleep and to be able to fly all over the place and meet people. There are obviously a lot of exceptions. I have some bosses who we think are not human because they just never seem to not be working. But in terms of how just people's bodies break down in general, I feel like just in the last few years, I can't even handle the workload I did a few years ago. So
Jamie, I want our friend Nate to jump in, but let me ask you this, because I think this has a lot to do with the discussion that we're having. You mentioned 52-hour a week would be, a cakewalk for you guys. Do you feel, I don't know if you're hourly or you're salaried, and you don't have to share what number that is, but do you feel like your compensation equals the effort and the time that you put in?
Sometimes it does. When you have weeks, it's salaried, so you don't really measure it as much. And it's easier to kind of live with it at that point because you're not sitting there tallying. When you get up to 90 and you can see that there's an obvious tie into how much you're working, how much you're getting. But I'd say that for most people, regardless of whether or not they're hourly or salary, I think that at the end of the day, when you're working that much, and that goes for just any, I'd say middle of the road job where you're still putting in 50 or more hours a week, eventually I don't think that your body and mind are necessarily made to do that when you have a family and
that's a very good point
to worry about.
Look, the United States, it's a fact that we are a very materialistic culture. We all want the nice clothes, the nice cars, the bigger house, and the more money that you make, the more you're going to spend. You know what I mean? And I think that when you are focused on chasing the dollar, you neglect the temple, which is your body, your mind. You know what I mean? You start trying to maximize every minute of the day so you can achieve the goals that you set for yourself. Whether you live in a 3,000 square foot house, you want to move to a 5,000 square foot house. You live in a 1,000 square foot house, you want to move to a 1,500 square foot house. So no matter where you are on the spectrum of how much money you make or what you do for a living, you're constantly trying to improve. And, look, the only way that can be achieved is by working. It's either you work for yourself or you work for someone. The fact of the matter is, it takes every hour of the day to do that.
And the question that we pose is at what cost?
All right, well, thanks, Jamie, for your call. I got to get into this a little more because, Gregg, it looks like we got more calls coming in. We got Dan on the line. But before we get to him, let's really get into this a little more. Like, what exactly are you saying?
The reason why I brought up this topic
exactly.
is...
What is the reason behind this topic?
Okay. And this is for Nate. Well, Nate knows who we work for, but you and I work for Gift of Life.
Correct.
And we said in our introduction today that we saved approximately 3,000 lives. Most of the people, when we discuss and we become friends with them over a long period of time. You know, we have beautiful relationships. We're happy that they're enjoying a very, very fruitful life. But a common theme among those people that survived a catastrophic event was that you want to know something, I have to recalibrate what's important to me. And just like the caller, Jamie, that was on the line, a lot of the people worked significant amount of hours. And to use the analogy that they said, they felt like they were a hamster on a wheel. So what they started doing is spending more time with their families, exercising more, eating better. And it wasn't until a catastrophic event took place that this was even on their radar. They were just so programmed, as Nate said before, to go for the brass ring.
Yeah,
So
it's easy.
that's why the word recalibration.
Yes.
But what we're trying to do now is we have the statistics in front of us of all industrialized nations. We work for the gift of life, and we want people to truly enjoy their lives. Some people truly enjoy working 100 hours a week because they don't feel like it's a minute worked. But others have to do so out of necessity, maybe not out of necessity, maybe out of materiality, that they want to move to that 5,000 square foot home. But again, at what physical toll? That's why we bring this up.
I'll get into why I disagree later. Let's take that other call. Dan, maybe you can
Shed some light.
shed some light on this one. Dan, welcome to the Gift of Life with Gregg.
Hey, how's it going, guys? How are you?
How's it going, Dan? I don't know if you've been hearing us, what we're talking about. I don't agree with the fact that paid time off, more paid time off equals a healthier life.
Well, it's mandated paid time off.
Mandated paid time off. What are your 2 cents?
I completely agree with you there. You know, I live out in Denver, and, I'm an outdoor adventurist. And my life, I work a lot of hours because I got to put food on the table. But my life is a healthy lifestyle, and my work is a result of that healthy lifestyle. I do what I'm passionate about, and that is being in the great outdoors. I'm a whitewater rafting instructor in the summer, and I work on the ski mountain in the winter.
It's a great gig.
And I think it's all about what you choose to do. If you want to work in corporate America and sit behind a desk, and push numbers and make millionaires billionaires, then yeah, sure, you're gonna have a rough time at it. You're gonna put on a couple extra pounds. But if you're doing what you love, and what you love is being outdoors, being healthy, being active. A lot of people have jobs that enable them to be as active as possible. There's
I got to check you there, Dan. I got to check you there because my father is a doctor, and he works 80 hours too. It's not like the only people who are putting in the time are people making millionaires to billionaires. There are a large contingent of people who work very long hours, very long weeks, who do very very important things. Gregg, am I wrong here?
No, you know what? I value everybody that earns an active life, an honest life, and in Dan's case here on the phone, he really is living the epitome of gift of life. He works a lot. He's able to fulfill his family's needs. He does what he loves. He stays active, stays healthy. So I think it's a perfect blend.
Now, Dan, I'd like to ask you a question.
Sure.
Do you live within your means, or I know this may be I know this is none of my business, but I mean, do you have a lot of debt?
No, I mean, I was able to work off my debt after college, and I have 2 kids now and a loving wife, and I'm able to work a lot of hours to put food on the table. We live a pretty simple life, but I've never agreed with the lavish lifestyle of taking $25,000 vacations twice a year.
There you go.
That's not how I grew up, but that's not how I want to raise my kids.
There's another point to this, too, that I don't think we're recognizing, Dan, is that Colorado's a lovely state. It's really easy to be physically active in that state, isn't it?
Oh, certainly, yeah.
It's beautiful.
Well, hold on a second. South Florida is beautiful. We're surrounded by beaches. Doesn't mean that you spend every single day at the beach.
Nah, it's not the same.
Come on.
It's not the same.
It's 78 degrees
Come
here
on,
right
it's
now.
not. It's not the same. Dan, you know what I'm talking about. It's not the same.
Don't get me wrong. In Denver, it's beautiful there. There's many different landscapes. I mean, all South Florida has is really blue skies, palm trees, and ocean.
Beach.
Right. So
you make it sound terrible. Of course, somebody could exercise. Of course, somebody could exercise. So I agree with Big Nate.
I'm not going to swallow that pill. Hey, Dan, thanks for your call. I really appreciate it, man.
Appreciate it, guys.
Take it easy, brother. Nate, you have anything else to add on this? Because I'm ready to blow my gasket off on this one, but we got a break coming up.
I just think that if you live within your means, no matter what kind of income bracket that you're in, you are taking a lot of pressure off of yourself. If you make more, if you spend more than you make, you're adding, unnecessary pressure. And that is going to dictate how many hours a week that you must work.
So, but let's go back to something that Dan said. He mentioned that he doesn't believe in taking $25,000 vacations, and something that Barry said in the beginning of the show, that about living a lavish lifestyle. So let's say that you're somebody that could afford the lavish lifestyle, but you work 4,000 hours a year to go away 1 week.
Let's be realistic.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to disrespect our last caller.
Yes.
But let's face it. Based on what our friend Dan does for a living,
Yeah.
he can't afford a $25,000 vacation. So
That's true.
It's all relevant. What you make will dictate what you can spend.
Right, but let's take it a step further. And the reason I want to reintroduce this again, this is Gift of Life with Gregg. If you'd like to call into our show, it's 1-888-565-1470. Again, this is Gift of Life with Gregg. 1-888-565-1470. And we're talking about the fact that Americans on the whole work on average longer than just about any other industrialized nation in the world. By the same token, they have one of the lowest longevity rates for an industrialized nation. Is there a causal relationship between the two?
That's our question. And before we take our break, Gregg, we're about to take our break. I want to ask our audience and you guys here on the set 3 questions. Not really related to what we're talking about, but you'll see.
Fire away.
All right, number 1. If you had to guess, what is the change in number of deaths from natural disasters in the last century? Has it gone up twice as much? Has it stayed the same, or is it half as much? Again,
You want to fire? You want to take on?
No. We'll get to the answers after the break.
Okay.
Change in number of deaths from natural disasters in the last century. Again, twice as much, the same, or half as much. Second, how long on average do women go to school? How many years? 7 years, 5 years, or 3 years? How long on average do women go to school? 7, 5, or 3 years? Last question. In the last 20 years, how did the percentage of people living in poverty change, with poverty being defined as not having enough to eat for the day? Has poverty doubled? Has poverty stayed the same, or has poverty been reduced by half in the last 20 years? So those are the 3 questions. Number of deaths from natural disasters, how many years women go to school, and in the last 20 years, how did the percentage of people living in poverty change? I want to, let our give our audience a couple minutes to think about those, because they're deceptively simple questions.
But let's sweeten the pot. If we get somebody from our audience to call in and get all 3 questions correct, we will send them a prize.
I love it. I love it.
All right.
You heard it from the man himself, Gregg. If you get those 3 questions right, we are going to send you a Gift of Life prize.
A Gift of Life prize. So
Or how about lunch with Angry Barry?
There you go. That
Oh,
too.
that may be great.
Sweeten
You could sweeten the pot to have a lunch with Angry Barry.
All right. Thanks for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. We got a lot to talk about, though, so stick with us, and we'll be back in a right quick moment.
Are you in the market for a health plan? If so, please visit my good friend Gary at Health Plans Unlimited. No plan is too big or too small. Gary will customize a plan that's affordable and comprehensive, just for you. If you're interested, please visit Gary Goldman, the best in the biz, at www.healthplansunlimited.com. Again, that's www.healthplansunlimited.com. Or you can call Gary Goldman directly on his personal line at 954-303-6676. Again, that's 954-303-6676. And tell him that Gregg sent you directly from the Gift of Life. Health Plans Unlimited. We have the health plan for you.
ThrowItBetter.com. Do you need help with your bowling game? Are you taking the right 5-step approach? If you want to become a competitive bowler, even a recreational bowler that's considering joining a league, or a league bowler that is considering joining a tournament, you need to see Vince. He's going to show you how to throw it better. He'll get you the right equipment. He'll show you the right approach. And as a certified coach, he'll put you in the best position to succeed. If you're interested, please contact Vince at throwitbetter@gmail.com and tell him that Gregg sent you. Again, that's throwitbetter@gmail.com, or call Vince at 954-541-5414.
If you own a business and have the need for commercial insurance, I suggest you call Chris Moore of Brown & Brown Insurance in Fort Lauderdale. Chris has been in the commercial insurance business for over 30 years and can handle any company's need for property, general liability, workers' compensation, and automobile, just to name a few. Brown & Brown, being countrywide and the 5th largest agency in the country, gives Chris the tools he needs to meet all your insurance needs. So call Chris at 954-331-1420. Again, that's 954-331-1420. We want to extend a special thanks to our friends at the Boca West Foundation for all the wonderful work they do for Gift of Life and for all the meaningful service they give to the Boca Raton community. For over 3 years, the Boca West Foundation has generously supported local charities in the Boca Raton area. The Boca West Foundation. It's all about the kids. Welcome back to the Gift of Life with Gregg, the show that talks about giving and receiving. I'm your co-host, Leora Lieberman, and I'm here with my host, Gregg Francis, and co-host, Barry Kaplan. If you'd like to call into our show, we'd love to hear from you. Please call 888-565-1470. Again, that's 888-565-1470. And now, back to our show.
And we're back with the Gift of Life with Gregg. Angry Barry here, ladies and gentlemen. Before the break, I asked the audience a couple questions. It looks like we got some calls lined up with answers. And let me ask these questions again, though, because I want us to all to hear and make sure that we all understand what I'm asking. The first question is, what is the change in the number of deaths from natural disasters in the last century? Is it increased twice as much? Has it stayed the same? Or is it decreased half as much in the last century? Second question, how long on average do women go to school? How many years? 7 years, 5 years, or 3 years? And the last question, in the last 20 years, how did the percentage of people living in poverty change? And poverty being not earning enough to eat that night. Is it double? Is it the same? Or is it reduced by half?
One question for clarification. On the second question, is this just all throughout the world? Or
this is the entire world. All these questions are the
non-industrialized nations.
The entire world. And so let's take that call. Let's see if Frank has all the right answers. Frank, welcome to the Gift of Life with Gregg. You got some answers for me, buddy, or are you trying to chime in?
I actually had some things to say about what we were talking about before with the work schedules and all that craziness.
All right, go ahead, Frank.
Oh, this is Frankie from, is this Frank from Long Island?
It's Frank from Bayshore. How you doing, Gregg?
Good. All right, my man's back. I missed you for a couple of weeks.
I know. It's been busy. Speaking of work, some of us got to work, so I'm over here grinding away. And unfortunately, I missed a couple of weeks in there somewhere.
All right, Frank, what's up, boss?
So I heard a couple things, and luckily, I just had a conversation similar to my little guy, not Frank Jr., but Dominic, my youngest. He had to do a report on essentially what farming and I don't know, there's stuff in the Middle Ages. You know, there were mostly farmers. There's some in the medieval times. I don't know. But all I know is I had to help him out and write half of it.
It was feudalism.
One thing that stood out, that a big part of his thing was, these guys had to work 14, 16 hours a day outside, in terms of the surfs, 16 hours a day, got very little food, very little show for it.
Backbreaking
And
labor.
now we complain that we got to work 9-10 hours, and people are going nuts, like they're not even getting fed at the end of it. And they have these great lives, and I think obviously it's easy to say that now because it's a totally different time and totally different kinds of work, right? No one has to sit there and work 16 hours on a farm all day to feed his family. But
Frankie.
the important thing is that, I feel like back then you had something direct from the work you were doing all day. You sat outside, you farmed, you got some food from it. Look, there's a result. Now, because of the kind of economy we're in, a global economy, you're on the computer all day. You don't really see the direct effects of what you do every day.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So I think in my life, the people who I know have been happiest, regardless of the amount of time that they work, is who can see the results that come from it. Whether or not it's some sort of deal where you were invested in it emotionally and temporally, or is it something where you do something good with your life and you love what you do and you get to see at the end of the day something good that comes of it. Doesn't matter if it's like a non-profit type job. Doesn't matter if it's a business deal. Something at the end of the day that you can point to and say, I did this, and here's the result, and it worked out. And that's what I feel like makes a difference. And regardless of how much you work, it's what you're doing in that time that will decide how happy you are.
Frankie, I got 3 questions for you. I got to get these answers from you. Spitfire. They're not really relevant, but they will be relevant. I'll make it relevant.
Before you ask, Frankie, if you get these all right, we're going to fly you down to Boca Raton, Florida, for a lunch with Angry Barry Kaplan.
A steak lunch. Now, okay, here's your three questions.
Well, it's Christmas come early for me.
3 questions, Frankie. Number 1, in the last century, what has been the change in the number of deaths from natural disasters? Have they doubled? Have they stayed the same? Or have they halved as much?
I'm going to say they doubled.
Doubled. Second question.
Did he get it right?
Well, wait, we'll get there.
Oh.
How long on average do women on Earth go to school? How many years? 7 years, 5 years, or 3 years?
I'm going to say whatever the least amount is. You got a lot of kids who can't, women in other countries can't even,
How many years? 7, 5, or 3?
No, he said 3, the least.
3?
Yeah.
What was the youngest? 3?
Okay,
Whatever
3.
The youngest is.
All right, last question, Frank. In the last 20 years, how did the percentage of people living in poverty change? And poverty is not making enough money to eat for the day. Did it double? Mm-hmm. Did it stay the same, or did it reduce by half?
I'll say double of that too, because I'm going to say that got worse and a small percentage got better.
All right, Frankie, I wanted to thank you for your call. We're going to take your information on the other line, and if you win, who knows? You could be spending your next week in Florida.
So can't wait to hear.
All right, thanks for your call, Frankie. Let's get these answers out. Greg, Nate, just for the record, you guys agreed with Frankie. You thought that the number of deaths from natural disasters in the last century has doubled. You thought that women go to school for 3 years.
Actually, I selected 7 years.
Yeah. Okay. So Nate thinks 7. Greg, you think 3.
Probably the answer is 5.
Well, wait for it. The third question: in the last 20 years, how did the percentage of people living in poverty change? You both thought it doubled.
Correct.
All right. This is the central problem that we're dealing with. And I'm sorry, Frank, but you didn't get any of them right. I'm sorry, guys, you didn't get any of them right. And the change in the number of deaths from natural disasters in the last century has been half as much. Half as much. The women on average on Earth go to school for 7 years. On average.
So that's what I picked 7.
No, you were right. You were right for that. I'll admit for that one.
if
You're not getting a steak lunch from me. Last question. In the last 20 years, how did the percentage of people living in poverty change? It was reduced by half. Our perception of this world is so far skewed. So far skewed. We all think that we live in the 1960s. That's what's going on.
I think it's the media.
Oh, yes.
They like to implement fear into the general public.
Now, now, how does this have to do with anything that we're talking about today? Well, Greg, you started the show by listing off a list of 20 industrious countries.
Industrial
nations. Most of those nations, they haven't seen much improvement in the last 50 years. Most of the change that's gone on this earth has taken place outside of North America. and it's been a miraculous shift for the better of humanity, and we haven't embraced it. We haven't embraced it for what it is. And if everyone's listening to me and is doubting me, saying that's no way, go online, type in Hans Rosling, "How Not to Be Ignorant About the World." It's a TED Talk, and he goes through all the same 3 questions.
Spell the name for
Hans is Hans. Last name Rosling, Rosling, a Swedish professor, brilliant man, brilliant man, and he asks long studies. About 33% of people in Sweden and people in the State Department in the United States answer the same way you guys do. Most of the people believe that we live in the 1960s, when in reality, most of the world has come so far. And realistically, most of the countries that are in that very, very low, what do you want to call it? Like, very impoverished, very
Low income bracket?
Low income. That's, a lot of countries in Africa and Afghanistan. Most countries on Earth today are considered developed by the standards that we call developed.
I love the point that you made, and I'm going to stay static to my notion that with the increased shift in quote-unquote better change, better manufacturing, et cetera, and the labor intensity that we put into it, is the individual better off than he was in 1960?
It's a fair question, but I just have to mention, in Kerala, which is a province of India, they have no regulation in Kerala about any paid time off or vacation or benefits. No one cares in Kerala. Most people in Kerala are farming rice. But WHO statistics say that people are healthier in Kerala than in Washington, D.C.
But maybe that's the ingrained, no pun intended, diet. No. I understand, and I think that you make an extremely valid point. I know we're tight against time. I believe that we have time for one more quick call. I want to say that we have Jerry on the line.
All right. Hey, welcome to Gift of Life with Gregg.
Jerry?
Hello?
Jerry, you there?
Yes, I'm here. How's it going, guys?
Good. Have you been listening into our conversation today?
Yes, I have. It's been a great show. Thank you. I wanted to weigh in with my views on this point. I really do think, the amount of hours that people are working, hunched over their desk, their shoulders depressed, their bodies, clumped together.
Slouching.
This is completely, 100% having to do with an unhealthy lifestyle. There's a reason. You see on the internet, you see people. It's called the Asian squat. That used to be a natural human position when we didn't have chairs. People used to be able to just relax in a squat, and it just is not the case in America anymore.
Jerry, have you heard of this? I read an article on Huffington Post the other week. So they say sitting is the new smoking.
Yeah, I believe it. Well, what we really need to do is get the chairs, get the desks. The traditional office lifestyle, the corporate America office lifestyle, is killing people slowly, and people don't realize it until it's too late. I guess some of the cooler tech companies, the ones with the cool offices, the beanbag chairs, people sitting on the floor, the non-cubicle stuff, that's going in the right direction. But bosses got to realize that quality of life is what's going to make people work hard for them, come in every day, company culture. You need to have ping pong tables in the office. Come on now, guys.
Yeah, I would love ping pong tables in the office.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, I have, me and there's a guy in our office named Alec that I had some ferocious ping pong games with. Yeah, we had some fun. So that would be fun if we could get that. But Jerry, I certainly appreciate. Where are you calling from, incidentally?
Durham, New Hampshire.
Nice, Durham, New Hampshire.
All right,
lovely town. Hey, Jerry, thanks for your call.
Thanks, guys.
All righty. So
back to what I was saying. We live in a flat world. Thomas Friedman's flat world it's real. It's a reality. So to say that, give a list of 20 nations that are quote unquote industrialized when we have countries like India and China, which make up about half to, a third to half of the population, most of the people don't have the regulations that all these other countries that you listed have, yet they're more healthy than the United States is.
No, we could definitely, have had an argument instead of longevity, quality of life.
Yeah.
But to tie this back full circle, Nate and Barry, we work at Gift of Life Bone Marrow Foundation, and why we spoke about quality of life, longevity, having paid time off, and really encompass free time and stuff that you like to do in your leisure. So many people post something catastrophic in their life always said to us, you know what, it made us, word of the day, recalibrate our thinking. So we thought it would be an interesting dynamic to throw that out. We did have some empirical studies made. Did it measure quality of life? No, but when we're such a progressive nation in terms of having the technology and being able to work remote, longevity is just not at an acceptable stage in the United States.
There's no excuse.
No, there's no excuse. Again, Barry and I had definitely polarizing opinions, but we do know that something has to change because we have to be stronger than a 77 years when our counterparts are living into the mid 80s.
Absolutely.
With that being said, Kenny on the other side of glass, we have to thank for hitting our boards. He's telling us that we have about the 30-second whistle. I thank everybody for supporting the show. Have a great week. Enjoy the upcoming holiday season. Go out there, enjoy, and God bless everybody. We'll see you next Tuesday.
Thanks for tuning in to The Gift of Life with Gregg. I wanted to personally say thank you to everyone who participated in today's show. And I also wanted to let you know that you're interested in what we do here at The Gift of Life, please call 1-800-9-MARROW. That's 1-800-9-MARROW. Or you can visit our website at www.giftoflife.org. Again, that's www.giftoflife.org. Even though we're wrapping up our show today, remember, you must always unwrap the gift of life.
The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsor